Hi everyone, good evening. I'm Elena, and today I am going to talk about what I have been doing as a beginning reborn artist. I'm a beginner. I am not an expert, but I'm going to share the things that I've been doing as I've been air dry painting vinyl reborn kits. So that tells you a little bit about my experience. I use air dry paints and I have only painted vinyl reborn kits. So one of the things that I started doing when I started making my reborns was note taking. So I have a notebook and I make sure I watch tutorials and I do some research on what I'm going to use to paint with. And then I take those notes and I organize them on several pages by number. And that's how I keep track of what I did. And for me, it was important to start tracking what I did because if it worked on the baby I made the last time, then I want to use that technique again. I want to try that strategy again, or I want to combine those paints again. And I noticed that when you move from, well, for me, when I moved from kit to kit, sometimes I couldn't remember what I did the first time. I knew it went well, but I couldn't remember. So I started note taking and I started keeping a notebook of what I did when I made the baby from the start of the process to the finish of the process. So that's just a strategy that I use that helps me, and I go back and look at it, and every time I make a new baby I refine those notes. And I've started actually like dating at the top and putting which kit I made. So once I see my finished product, I was like, oh yeah, I want to use those notes because that went really well for me. Or I don't want to use those notes. That did not go well for me. I didn't bond with that baby as well as I thought I was. So this is kind of starting to help me to establish some practices that I'm going to use every time I make a baby. And it's also helping me to establish some practices that maybe I don't want to use when I make this baby, but maybe I want to use it again when I make another baby. So that's just an idea to take notes, but anyway, that's my process. So most of the time I start by, well, you have to start by figuring out which kit you want. And no, I don't have a whole kit today, but this is the Daphne, Reborn Daphne Asleep kit. And I only have the head because I used the limb for another doll and made a hybrid. But I do have my Daphne Asleep head that I ordered. I ordered this off of Bountiful Baby. So when you get your kit, you are going to want to wash your kit. And so I use Dawn dish liquid soap, hot water, not scalding hot water, but warm hot water. I use a white cloth that does not shed, and sometimes I use the little baby washcloths, the white side, to help wash them down. And I keep a certain container or basin that I use to wash the kits, and I don't put anything else in that kit. Anything else in that basin, because I don't want my kits messed up when I wash them. I don't want any oils or other chemicals on my kits. These kits are expensive, so I'm real particular about if I feel like the basin is no longer any good, I go to the Dollar Tree and buy me some more basins, clean basins. Okay, so you clean your kit with soap and water and you wash it until you no longer see those oils, because when your kit comes, it's going to have the oils on it from the mold that it came out of, I believe it's called. So you want to make sure that you wash your kit well. Also, I alcohol my kit down to further clean it and prep it so that it's ready to receive paint. And then after I use the alcohol, I usually let my kit dry on a bottle drying rack. So I bought these bottle drying racks. I have 2 of these, and I use these to dry the limbs and the head of my kits. And I have 2 also because I don't want the parts touching each other. So depending on how big your kit is, or you know, you need space and room. So that's why I have 2 of these drying racks for my kits. So you're going to use these drying racks throughout the process, not just when you wash, but also when you paint. You need some type of rack or something to put your body parts on so that they can dry properly and they're not touching and falling all over the place, especially once you start painting. Okay, so you have washed your kit and you sanitized the kit. The kit is ready to move to the next step, which is you want to varnish your kit. So I'm just saying, for air dry paint, this is what I do. I use varnish. I use distilled water. At this point, I'm not using tap water. I use distilled water, and I use Folk Art Outdoor matte varnish and distilled water, and I varnish my kit. I have a plate that I got from the dollar store, and I put the matte varnish and the water on this plate, and I select the paintbrush that I want to use. I'm not saying I use this one, but I use the paintbrush that I feel is the right size, and I get that matte varnish all over that kit, all in between the toes, the fingers, the nostrils, everything. I make sure that that entire kit is varnished, because your varnish is what's going to get your kit ready to receive the air dry paint. Also, air dry paint is basically what it's saying. It's air dry. It's going to air dry. So you can't be dilly-dallying around. If you are going to air dry paint, you need to alert anybody in your household. Hey, I am painting. Do not interrupt me. Don't call me right. Like, I cannot come right now, because I mean, unless it's a dying emergency, do not open that door, because once you start painting, you want to move quickly until you get the process finished, or that layer of paint finished. You want to move quickly so that your paint is adhering properly, and it's also going to adhere as a skin layer. You don't want your paint to prematurely dry before you have finished pouncing it in properly with your sponges. These are the cosmetic wedges. You can see I've already used the tweezers to put little notches in them, or craters. I could say they look like craters on the moon. You want to get your little craters in your wedges, and sometimes I put craters in these too. And I use these more so for modeling, and I use these more so for adhering the skin tone. Also, when I get to a certain stage, I start using paint brushes to put the skin tone on, depending on what I'm doing. But I have all size paint brushes, so you definitely need a paintbrush bin. You want to make sure you have paintbrushes. You want to make sure you have proper cosmetic wedges, and that you take your tools and you prep them so that when you get ready to paint and put certain layers of skin and modeling and undertones on, that you have the proper tools to get done what you need to get done. All right, so you have washed the kit, varnished the kit, and now you want to start painting the kit. So it is good for you to have like a color wheel, so that if you add too much of one color and you need to tone it down, you can look from here right directly across, and you know that if you use this color and it's too much and you overdid it, you can use these colors to fix it. So that's how the color wheel works. It'll help you with color correction. And then I have this little bag, and inside this bag is different size scissors. So of course I'm gonna use scissors when I root hair, cut eyelashes. Also in this bag I have different size tweezers to pull hair out. If I root it in and it's too many hairs, I can pull some hair out. The tweezers help you with your rooting and with the hair, and you know, and also the tweezers help you to get these little craters inside of the sponges. You pull them little holes and it'll help you make the craters on your cosmetic wedges, right? So I keep that little toolkit together. So now I varnished the kit. It's dry. Everything's looking good. I'm gonna shine bright light on my kit and make sure that my kit doesn't have any lint on it, any hairs on it. I usually use these type of white cloths that don't shed. I use these to kind of sometimes dust it off, just to make sure it's, and when I say dust, I'm not talking about heaps of dust, because when you're painting, you should be in an area that's clean. So I'm saying I use these to just make sure it's no hair. Like sometimes your own hair sheds, or it could be maybe your chair is a little furry. You don't want any hairs or anything on that kit when you start painting, because once that varnish and that paint dries, that hair is not coming off. It's not coming off. So you want to make sure to avoid that. I also make sure I have plenty of paper towels. I usually section off my paper towels, and I use that to lay my paintbrushes and things that have been soiled or have chemicals on them, varnish, paint, etc. I use these to line my table and lay those on. And I also ordered the diaper changing cloths. I ordered a pack of these, and I lined my art table with that. My art table is really small. I'm working in a confined space right now, but maybe in the future I'll have a larger art space. Me and my husband have been talking about it, and eventually I'm going to have a large art studio, and I'll be able to spread out my materials a little better. But for now, I'm doing what I gotta do. But anyway, order you some of these. These work really well. They keep your area nice and clean. It's, you know, ready for if you splatter paint. If anything happens, you're not messing up your furniture. And these are really good as well. All right, so I do have these type of trays, paint trays. For if I want to mix paint on. I have different styles, different sizes. I've already showed you the paint brushes. So let's talk about the paint. So originally when I started painting, I was buying any type of acrylic air dried paint that I could find. And then I started looking at the Genesis heat set paints and looking at the kits that were coming from artists that use Genesis heat set, and I was like, man, this cheap air dry paint that I'm using, it's not vibrant, it's not giving what I wanted to give. So I started researching, studying paints, and trying to find paints that would work better and give me a better outcome. And so far I have settled on golden. So I've been using the golden paints. And I'm using like raw sienna, burnt sienna, raw umber, burnt umber, those type of colors. And then I'm also, for my undertones and other layers, the veining, the mottling, I'm using golden paints. But then there is another brand that I started buying also, and it has been working pretty good for me. It's Reborn Ultra Color Arts and Crafts acrylic paints. So I've been using those, and at the top you probably can't see it, but it's called Reborn, WEISBRANDT, Reborn. So those are the two brands of paint that I'm using right now. And usually when you order your golden paints, also with that comes your gloss medium. And gloss medium is something that you use at the end of your baby making process to gloss in the corner of the eyes, to make the eyes look wet, gloss the lips, gloss on the nails, the fingernails, those type of things you use the gloss for. But it comes with your golden, so that's also by Golden. Okay, so, and I keep my paints, like, I keep my stuff organized. I buy little containers to keep things organized, and also to keep my area neat. Okay, so I'm painting the baby, painting the layers, using the sponges, different style sponges. Sometimes I got thick makeup brushes to brush any lint off, that type of thing. But I'm using my paint brushes, all different sizes. Then I have smaller, tinier brushes called detail brushes for when I want to get certain details on my kit and on my baby. So I done painted the baby, I done varnished the baby. It's got undertones, it's got veining, it's got mottling. Maybe I put a mole on it or something, you know, the heel prick, all of that is painted on, right? So now I got this kit, it's dried, everything, and I now need a dose weight body so that the limbs can assemble. So one of the things that I would suggest is when you go on, if you've never done this before, when you order your kit, sometimes the kit comes with the body, but a lot of times it does not. So you want to go down, scroll down to the sizing chart, and on the sizing chart is a table that tells you what number body to order that goes with your kit. Sometimes that works out perfectly, but sometimes it does not. And I have bought bodies, I'm like, this don't go with this, or this is not, I'm not falling in love with my baby with this size midsection. So I order another one until I find the one that works for me. But you see, I have extras now, and you can see that I had to learn my lesson. Like, you order a body and you order the wrong one and you get this and your baby is 3 months, this is not going to work. Like, you can see the size difference. Also, it's good to know that these dose weight bodies come in different colors. So that's good to know, because when I first started, I didn't know that. I didn't know that there were different color dose weight bodies. So, and you need to know, is your baby full limbs? Is your baby 3/4 limbs? So that you order the right types of bodies. I don't have any babies that I made that are 3/4 limbs, but I do have a preemie that's 3/4 limbs. So I do kind of know what that body is supposed to look like, because that's what my preemie was made out of. Now, the kits usually come with cable ties this size, but I don't really like those. So I go to the Dollar Tree And I buy different size cable ties, and I keep these. Like, I make sure when I go to the dollar store, just for no reason at all, I just grab a stack of cable ties and I keep those because you need them. Sometimes after you assemble the baby, wear and tear, you need to replace those cable ties. So, or sometimes you assemble the body and you don't like how it's feeling, so you gotta restuff it and move stuff around. You need extra cable ties. And also, if you're making a baby that you're sending to someone, you want to send them some extra cable ties. So just, you know, once you decide what kind of cable ties you want to use, you just want to keep a lot of those around. Also, with the body, you want to order yourself some stocking, knee highs, because you're going to use this to put your glass beads in to weight your baby. So you want to make sure you keep buying these and keep these on hand as well. And thinking of that, I bought different size funnels. I bought a measuring cup, and I use all of these when I'm trying to work with the glass beads. So I got a measuring cup to get the glass beads in, because if you waste these glass beads, you're going to be frustrated. They're really tiny, they're really small. And let me also say, I do have some poly pellets, but I didn't pull those out because I don't use poly pellets inside of my babies anymore when I make them. I fell in love with the weight from glass beads, and I'm going to show you the box in a second, but I don't like poly pellets. I don't use them in my babies, but this will help you inside of the limbs. I don't have any limbs. Like I said, I don't have any limbs today. But when you're putting the glass beads inside, now I don't pour glass beads inside the head. I don't want to confuse anybody. I put them inside the stockings, and then I put the stockings inside. But when you're putting glass beads in your limbs, you're going to pour the glass beads through the funnel inside the limbs, right? And you have to make sure you have control over your limbs and this, because you, again, you don't want to waste glass beads. They're really tiny, and I have wasted them before. You don't want to do that. You want to try not to do it. You want to avoid doing it. Like I said, we're human, we gonna falter, but at your best, you don't want to waste glass beads, and they're expensive. So that's another reason. This stuff is expensive. Glass beads are heavy. So I ordered these glass beads from Amazon, and like I said, they're very fine glass beads. They're really, really small. They're not like the poly pellets. Glass beads are super duper small in texture, really small. If you waste them, it's gonna be a mess. Okay, so I use these glass beads to weight the baby. On top of the glass beads, I order polyfill. I use the polyfill to also stuff my baby and make sure that my baby is soft and plushy. Keep some polyfill. Always have. When you start getting midway on one bag, order the next bag. You need to keep polyfill. Let's see. Okay, so you weighted your baby. Now we're going to talk about rooting. So you have the baby, it's all painted, looks all great. And now I usually use chalk at this point to figure out what style I want. And if I want swirls, I make my swirls. If I want parts, I draw my parts. But I use chalk to line my head up so I know what I'm going to do when I start rooting. So I was talking to another artist, and please forgive me because I'm tired. It's been a long work day. I was talking to another artist, and she gave me a tip on where to order different size rooting needles from. And I got these off of Amazon. So I have 36 gauges. So all the blue ones are 36 gauge. All of my yellow needles are 40 gauge. And all of my green needles are 38 gauges. And then this is like a felting tool to put the needles in. So that your rooting needle, you can hold it properly. And also you're looking for the little notches in the needle so that it's pulling the hair in, and you're going to be like holding it on an angle. So today my goal is not to show you how to root, but I'm just talking through this as I'm remembering it to share the tools that I use when I'm making a baby. That's all I'm talking about today is the tools. But anyway, when I specifically talk, I'll have more detailed vocabulary to go with it. I'll make sure I plan that out before I get on here. But anyway, this is your rooting needle, and you have different sizes. Also, a good tip, wipe your rooting needles off, because sometimes they have like a black oil on them. You don't want that black oil on your kit. You painted it beautifully, and now you go to root hair in, and now you got these black dots on the head because the oil from the needle is getting on the kit. So you want to avoid that. You want to wipe your rooting needle off. Also, when I'm in and out of my head on my kit, I am using these large tweezers because sometimes it's hard once you have packed the head, if you want to adjust and move some things around, to reach in there and get everything out. So I bought me some large tweezers off of Amazon, and that really helped me to get inside the head and get some things that I need. I always keep a syringe for my distilled water, because when you're adding water to paint and you're trying to make your paint into a wash or thin the paint down, you also don't want to have so much water that the paint is of no use. So you want to like kind of gradually add water into your kit. Into your paint. I'm sorry, I'm so tired. You gradually want to add water into your paint so that you can thin the paint down, right, with this syringe. I also have this stick that came with, I think it came with a pack of polyfill actually, and I've been using this to like push the polyfill in or push things down inside the kit so I can be more accurate. Now, most of my babies are closed-eye babies, but I did make an open-eye baby before, and you want to make sure that you have some type of X-Acto knife, because you have to open the eyes sometimes to get those eyeballs adjusted right, and then you have to seal the eyes back after you get the eyeballs in properly. So you want to have an X-Acto knife. Make sure you have those on hand. I also have Q-tips. Want to make sure you have Q-tips in case little hairs and things get on. Once you start painting, you don't want to dig down on your kit, but you want to lift things off your kit. So toothpicks are good. When you get to the end of your kit, if you want your baby to be textured, I saw on a tutorial that these were really good for creating texture on your kit. So I made sure I bought packs of these from Amazon. Let me see. I also bought Prismacolor pencils, and these aren't the colors that I want to show you that I'm using. I can't find the ones I currently use right now, but of course, depending on the color eyebrows I want, I use Prisma pencils to draw those eyebrows on. This is what I mix my paints in. So the Dollar Tree keeps these containers with tops, and I mix my modeling, skin tone, nail color, undertones, all the paints, and then I label them on the tops. That's what this black stuff is. I label it veining, modeling, skin tone, whatever that's paint mixture is supposed to be used for. I label that. I also keep a bunch of lint rollers around because as I'm rooting hair, sometimes you need to get that hair off quickly and keep it moving, and lint rollers really help with getting hair off. I keep a water spray bottle so that once I root the hair on, I can start like seeing how the hair looks. If I'm brushing it or combing it down, this water, I can see what it's going to look like. And do I want to add more hair in that area? You know, sometimes when you root, you think you have fully rooted the hair, and then once you put the water on it and you brush it into a style, there's that bald spot that sticks out. So it's good to have this spray bottle. Also, I went searching and researching to find someone to sell me hair. And so eventually I found someone, and I use this same person who gives me mohair. And so I ordered hair, and here you can see I done wrapped the hair in paper towel, but I had some leftover curly black mohair. I had some leftover hair, but I keep my hair all in a case, different. I got fine adult, medium brown. I keep all my hair stacked in a container, just like I do my paints. And I keep like things together. So all my rooting stuff is in a container. All my paints are in a container. I try to make sure that I keep everything in the proper containers, labeled and together. Okay. I always keep a container of distilled water handy. Trust and believe, as a new artist, you are going to splatter paint, you are going to spill things, and one of the worst things that can happen, but it can happen, is that when your paint splatters, it gets on your kit that you are like 85% of the way through painting. It can happen. You want to have water on hand. So remember, you have already varnished this kit. The purpose of the varnish is to make sure that the paint will adhere to your kit. It is also air dry paint. So if you splatter paint, you don't realize you splatter paint, you're going to have some corrections to make, or you're going to be making some birthmarks, because accidents happen, unfortunately, as a new artist. Until you get down like your technique, location of your materials, you're going to be making mistakes. You're going to be making errors. Like, it's just going to happen unintentionally. You could paint and put paint on the kit, and that paint runs in a different direction. You don't notice it ran in the direction that it ran in, and now all of a sudden you go to turn the limb or turn the head, and I got this paint spot on here that I don't want on here. So you have to need that color wheels if you're making corrections. But also, when you are using air dry paint, if you don't get your paint properly pounced in time, your paint is going to look like a watermark. It's going to look like a stain. It's not going to look like skin. It's not going to look like it has become one with the kit. It is going to look like a watermark. It's going to look like you wasted juice on that kit, or something, or that kit had some mildew on it, like almost like when it rains and water comes in your ceiling. It's going to look like that, and you don't want it to look like that. So you want to make sure that you are pouncing, especially if you're doing air dry paints. It dries quickly, and I'm not saying it's like as soon as you put it on there. No, you don't just suck it up, but you have a certain, I would say 60 seconds you need to be moving. If you put in, and don't try to cover your, and maybe a minute and a half, but you don't have long when you're using air dry paint. You need to move quickly. You need to get that paint on there, and you need to pounce it in so it becomes one with the kit, or you're going to have these stains, and it's not going to look like skin. It's going to look like stains, and you don't want that. I also did buy these spoolies so that when I'm rooting hair and eyelashes, I have mechanisms that work. I found these at Dollar Tree too. A lot of things I do find at Dollar Tree, but there are some things that I'm not buying from Dollar Tree, like my paint brushes. Certain brushes I don't want from Dollar Tree. My glass beads. A lot of stuff I buy from Amazon. A lot of stuff I buy from Reborn websites. Like, I want authentic quality materials so that I can make quality babies. Now, there are some things you can be frugal on, and you can spend less money on, and you can get those at Dollar Tree, but it's a lot of things that you need to buy the best of the best. And also, if you're going to be painting multiple kits, you want materials that's going to last you for a while. This is expensive. Like, I'm telling you, the materials I just showed you alone, probably $300 to $500 easily. It adds up. And some of these things wear and tear. So, for example, my paintbrushes. I go through my paintbrushes when I finish painting, and I try to make sure that they're not hard and they haven't hardened. If they're hardened, I throw them in the trash. I don't keep them. And then I order a new set and replace them. I don't keep using hard, dried paint. And again, I buy makeup brushes too, because you need to keep lint and dust and things off your kits. Like, you want to make sure. And then sometimes I use these to dry the kit too while I'm painting, because these work faster and better sometimes, depending on which area of the kit I'm trying to dry. With air dry paints, I use these sometimes to dry the kit and to make sure that the kit is dry. But outside of that, these are the materials and things that I use. I believe I shared just about everything here. Yep, it's nothing that I didn't share. So thank you for joining me. This is what I use when I air dry paint. I do not know anything about Genesis Heat Set. I'm sorry. I'm not using Genesis Heat Set, and the reason that I'm not is because my mom, her family had a history of asthma. So ever since I was like in my early 20s, I've been struggling with like bronchitis and other upper respiratory issues. And I have allergies. Like, I'm allergic to trees, grass, you name it. So I don't fool around with a lot of chemicals. But air dry paint does have chemicals. Like, sometimes the glue has a strong smell. The varnish has a strong smell. So what I did do was I bought a lot of masks. So I do keep masks, like the masks that we use from COVID. I use those masks over my face sometimes when I varnish, and when I use the the Mod Podge. When I use Mod Podge and when I use the outdoor matte varnish, because the scent is strong, I do put a mask on. Or you can open your windows too. But again, because you're painting, you don't want a fly to come in, or a spider or something to come in, and now you swinging and you messing your kid up. So I just put a mask on, and that helps me with fumes. But outside of that, that is it. Thank you for listening. If someone is going to air dry paint, maybe I say something that is helpful. Again, I am not an expert. I started painting January 2nd. I went back and looked at my page on Facebook. It's called On Canvas. And I went back and Googled on Facebook my first Reborn that I created, which was the Jade Awake. And that's a Bountiful Baby kit. And it was January 2nd of 2023. So that's when I started reborning, was when I made the Jade Awake kit. And so it is now almost 2025. It is the end of 2024 almost. We have less than 100 days to go in 2024. And yeah, so that's that. Have a good night. Thank you.